So I'm not a psychologist. I'm a business change person that's got years of transformation, large-scale transformation experience in industry. So my first claim to fame was I led the largest enterprise resource planning system, implementation of an SAP for HANA in South Africa at the time. And then I followed on to transform Cadbury's distribution and customer operations centers in South Africa. And what got me curious is we all follow process-based change, right? So we're going to get a comms strategy, and then we're going to map up what the process is, and then we're going to do a trainee needs analysis, and we're going to put people through a change impact assessment, and then we're going to identify what training they need, and then we're going to do that, and then we're going to expect them to follow the process. And what happens? They don't follow the process. And that's got me very, very curious in my career. And about 3.5 years ago, I was actually at a global oil client. And I had an aha moment, and I thought, there's something about behavior change that we haven't actually clocked onto. And then, I started building a behavior change offer for EY. And I've gone on to deliver that to 15 global clients in the last 3.5 years. And more recently, Elliot and I have collaborated. He's going to take you through one of our clients' examples. But as I speak to you, I will also take you through the other one as well. Okay. These are some of the insights I've gotten from doing those massive transformations. And the first thing is around leaders have to be self-aware about themselves and their attitude to change. And that's where the risk tie compass really, when I started to see what it could do, I started to realize how beautifully you can set leaders up to set the right tone from the top for a transformation. And when you do that, they are going to be self-aware of how they like to receive information. But more importantly, they're going to be self-aware in terms of the customers or colleagues that they need to communicate to. Because some colleagues want a lot of detail, and others, like myself, I don't need a lot of detail. You need to tell me what it is I need to do, how I need to do it, and give me the call center number that I need to phone. Whereas I've got a colleague that I work with quite closely, she needs the handbook, okay? And so working with, and Elliot's case study is very much centered on that kind of getting these leaders of this multinational to really get ahead of where we are and how do we think, and be conscious that when we communicate, do we really understand the audience that we're communicating to? Okay. I think the other thing is people are sentient beings. I go back to my change management process. You can follow the change management process. It doesn't mean to say that they're going to listen. We all respond to change differently. Some of us fight it, some of us love it, and some of us just like, I'm not going to do that. And so it's really, the Risk tie compass helps us to really position how people are actually going to respond to change. And that from a change management and transformation perspective is actually phenomenal, because now you can do customized change management. The third thing is around when you are going through a transformation, you can't pull people to the outcome. It's like gentle nudges. And so we have a behavior change approach that I've developed at EY that kind of reinforces the change. And so that is critical. I think that it's, again, you can't mandate change. So if you tell people that's what we want you to do, they may just not listen. And I'm one of those people. If I don't agree with something, I ain't going to do it. So you have to get me really motivated to change. The next point is one where Elliot and I have collaborated, and that's around psychological safety, because I think that is the most critical element to creating a high-performing team. And when you do not have that on a team, trying to implement change is actually very, very hard to do. And so I have actually worked with a global client for the last 2.5 years, trying to help them to become a high-performing team. And very recently, we actually profiled the team. And we actually had a conference last week, and we showed them their profiles. And all of a sudden, I realized why the leadership has a problem, or there's a breakdown of communication with the team. 2 of the leaders of the 6 sat on the sort of adventurous side of the risk compass, and everybody else was very imprudent. Now you can only imagine how frustrated those leaders are because they're trying to pull these people to change. And the prudent and waries are like, no, but we process, we auditors, we're not going to do that. And so there was massive issues on the team, and they were not psychologically safe. In fact, they had the lowest scores in the group for psychological safety 2 years ago. They're now the second highest in the group. And that's just because we've started to unpick what does high performance mean and what are the micro behaviors you need to drive that performance, and we've given them the tools to do that. Training doesn't change behavior. I think a lot of change management, process-based change management, there's this assumption that if we train you, you're going to change. You're not going to change. You really need to think about what motivates behavior change and think about the micro behaviors that you need to deploy to get people to change. Last but not least, I think it's critical in any transformation program to celebrate success and to build that into those kind of systematic levers in your organization that, like recognition, performance management, that really help to recognize when people are actually changing so that you can get your influences ahead of the curve. Go and speak to clients. I love formulas. Elliot knows that. And I always put this slide up in front of a client because this is your process-based change management. We're going to do this. And I said, you have to create the why for people. Why do we need to change, and what does great look like? And even more importantly, if you can get people to co-create the why with you and come up with a joint why, you're starting to get buy-in, you're building motivation to change. And try and do that with your influencers. And there's ways you can identify influencers in an organization. But that has found, and as I said, I've done this with a number of, we get the results that we need to get because we use the combination. Okay. So, any transformation program, we really need to understand what motivates people. And that whole thing around creating trusted, valued, and inspired employees. So if they can co-create that ambition statement and purpose statement for change, if they feel listened to, you're going to create a place where they feel fulfilled at work. When people feel fulfilled at work, they're motivated. When people do not feel fulfilled at work, performance suffers. Okay. The psychological safety. So we have a way of creating psychological safety within my practice, and as I say, for the client that I was referring to for last week, we actually co-created what is psychological safety. What is your team purpose and ambition around psychological safety? We did a current state analysis on where they were, and we identified 3 micro behaviors that each one in the team would then start to practice. And those were, practice feedback was interestingly one of them. The other one was to be curious, and the other one was to feel empowered. Now, empowerment, we chose quite specifically because this organization had a very hierarchical way of managing its teams. And when you've got hierarchy and you've got a legacy of autocratic leadership, people become disempowered. So if you can get people to feel empowered, to speak up, you actually break down hierarchy. Look, I'm not saying hierarchy is not important, but hierarchy in the way that you can actually have a conversation and feel listened to is actually very important because that helps to get diversity of thought in the room. And diversity of thought helps to get innovation. And then you can co-create better ways of doing things, actually. And so that is where the risk type compass is coming for both the client that Elliot's going to take you through, but also with the client I was speaking about earlier last week. Okay, so I think this is just a quick summary in terms of where I can see the application to use the risk type compass. I've very recently started playing with innovation, so I spoke about change and transformation. I think there's a play for how do you create innovation EQ, and I think that's my kind of next piece of product that I'm going to start building out because I'm quite fascinated around that, especially in a world where we have such significant disruption. So that's it from me.